All right, Shalom. I'd like to start out with saying, Ka Halayim, La Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Harakah Kwadash, Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles, a great millstone, and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing this truth and sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, I'm Kanak An Ban Yashar Allah from the Lions Den of Yashar Allah camp, and this is another Lions Den news and prophecy, and it's on this article that I was reading, and it says how Brics countries help to define a truly new world order, right? And ultimately, we know what the end-all, tell-all goal is for the new world order that's being trying to be set up by these upper elites, and that's everybody to be, sea-hipped. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and serve this purpose for the hopefully elect ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, so we all know it's a global agenda being pushed by the upper elites playing both sides of the spectrum. So don't for a moment think because these Brics nations that are forming together to come up against NATO and the European Union have any different types of thoughts in mind on how from a global spectrum how the world should go or end, but they're basically fighting over who's going to be the powerhouse nation to lead the charge. Because if you think about it, even though you have China and Russia that are against America, and they're part of those BRICS nations, they still want to have a one world order. They still want to have they want to be the ruling class on what happens in the future from a global standpoint. All right. So basically, you kind of see America being forced out of the picture, and China and Russia being set up as the top dogs, leading doing away with the old world order, which is with the dollar, and to the new world order, which is a monetary system that has to do with the MOTB CHIP, Revelations 13 to 16. We'll more than likely go into that. But the article says, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meets with South African International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor as part of the BRICS foreign ministers meeting in Cape Town, South Africa on June 1st. All right. It says June 18th, Washington, D.C., the international groups known as the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has maintained a generally low profile on the world scene since the founding in the aftermath of the financial crisis in 2008 to 2009. That was the year that Obama came into office, and that's when you had that big recession. All right, and then you had all these bailouts, and it was just a lot going on around that time. That was the housing market bubble, I think it was. It says, but last year, the combined economic output of the 5 BRICS members, measured in purchasing power parity for the first time, exceeded that of the United States-led G7. And this year, BRICS is poised to move to a much more powerful role in world affairs, right? So, because that's what their whole agenda is to deceive all the nations and go under to everybody. It's just like the Tower of Babel, everybody working together to create this so-called a picture of a wholesome life, a stairway to heaven or a tower to heaven, right? But ultimately, the who was it? One of the apostles did a lesson the other day, stating that all the things you have to go through. I think it was Apostle Rhyme Lab. All the things you have to go through, like celebrities, basketball players, entertainers, rappers, they have to go through so much to maintain that lifestyle, to where sometimes they try to question themselves and second guess their decisions to see if it's really worth it. Because what you're doing is you're giving your whole life over to this system just to get a little payoff with a little bit of money. With the money is not even really worth anything. They paint a facade of the money being worth something, but it really isn't. All right. So then people around there chasing after. That's why I call it big money dreams. It's a dream because it doesn't really exist. It says dreams lift the heart up of fools. So this American dream that everybody's been chasing around in the dollar, which is the old world order, which they're going to put to rest and bring forth a new world order where it'll all be digital and they have full total control. So now the name of the game is New World Order, and who has full total control of what goes on in that New World Order. But the ultimate goal is to have everybody C-hipped, all right? And they can monitor everything on this system that's being set up as a global digital system to track every transaction that happens dealing with finances. All right. It says it looks as if 13 significant other nations from the global south, including Saudi Arabia and Iran, may be admitted to the grouping at its upcoming summit, slated for late August in South Africa. And that'll be terrible for the United States, for Iran and Saudi Arabia to join the Brics nation. Saudi Arabia already said that they're not going to produce, they're going to cut America off for petroleum. And they're gonna work on their relationships with these other nations which are not allied to America. And Iran, you already know how Iran feels about America, the United States. So this would be terrible for the future of the United States of America. But it's all being set up by Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. It says the current validity of Brics starkly highlights the failure of Washington's push to strangle Russia economically and politically in response to Moscow's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. All right. So these sanctions haven't been able to hold weight against Russia, right, to try to hurt them economically for the invasion on Ukraine. But ultimately, them forming an alliance with these Brics nations, and they're being the driving force of the global economy now, moving the United States out of the way, right? So these sanctions are not having an effect, right? So now, because Russia's financial stability is no longer reliant on the dollar and what their use of the dollar with them selling petroleum or oil. Right. However, they have a financial backing from these Brics nations that are trying to do away with the dollar. That's the ultimate goal of these Brics nations, using a different form of currency, a different basket of currency, and moving America out from the top position. But America is slowly circling the drain, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to set themselves up economically by financially by creating a digital form of the greenback, which is not going to hold its weight because it's not going to be backed by anything. They don't have anything to back it with. So they're still going to try to use bullying and muscles and military and NATO to try to force people into that form of the dollar with the New World Order. All right. Causing everybody to be C-hipped. So every transaction that's done, there's no more under the table deals anymore. You can't, everything that's done financially will be tracked by the upper elites. The whole name of the game is full total control. All right. It says, it also more broadly indicates that the dominion that a handful of Western nations have exercised over global affairs for 500 plus years is now giving way to a very different, much less white dominated world. All right. It's more diverse, but they're still heathens, man. They're still heathens. The Lord's going to, even though he's setting up Gog and Magog or Russia, right? Even though he's setting Russia up, he's against them. Even though he set up Egypt, he was against them. It doesn't matter who Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai set up, because he ruleth in the kingdom of men, right? All right. Let me get Daniel 4:17. Daniel chapter 4. In 17 it says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basis of men. And that basis of men that's set up right now is Esau. And these other nations are licking their chops, like you just said, a much less white dominated world. All right. All right. So what do you have? These other nations despising Esau. And that's all set up by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai. Let's get Hosea. No, not Hosea. Shlakia. Let's get Obadiah. This is Obadiah 1:1. It says, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord. An ambassador is set among the heathen. Arise ye, let us rise up against her in battle. All right. It says, verse 2, it says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised, man. All right. So these nations despise Esau, Edom, and their system that they're trying to set up. But even though they're trying to create some form of the global economic system that's being set up by the image of this beast. But they don't want Esau to be the front runner anymore. All right. They don't want to deal with, Esau and his foolishness, man, and his unruly behavior. All right. Verse 3, it says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is on high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down? And that's what America is saying. That's how America feels, So they don't feel like they can be brought down, but they are going to be brought down. It's all going to be done by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai. He lifted up, and as a matter of fact, let me get 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 7. Then it says, no, 1 Samuel 2:7. It's like it. This is 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 7. It says, the Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. Right. And so anybody being risen up or being brought low, it's being done by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai. He ruleth in the kingdom of men. All power from anybody is given by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, bottom line. Let me see. Let me get Wisdom of Solomon, I think. Yeah. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon chapter 6. Because there's nothing these nations can do against the will of Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai. All right. Judgment is going to come down on these nations, man. Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai is not playing. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon chapter 6. It says, hear therefore, Wisdom of Solomon 6:1, it says, hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges of the ends of the earth. Give ear, ye that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of nations. And that's what America does. It says, for power is given you of the Lord, and sovereignty from the highest, who shall try your works and search out your counsels. All right. So when she tries the works and search out the counsels of the wicked, he's going to understand they've been ruling in wickedness, even though he set it up like that. He already understands. But, so he understands that they're ruling in wickedness, man. What does the scripture say? It says, because of unrighteous dealing and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one nation to another. But the next one to be set up is Israel. These other nations are licking their chops because they see America falling. But even though you see America falling, it's still going to be the children of Israel that rule. Okay. Let me get Second Ezra. All right. This is Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 7. All right. It says, "Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followed?" So the end of the first is talking about these global affairs that have been ran by Western nations for 500 plus years. These Western nations are talking about Europe, all right, America, EU, NATO, and these countries that are aligned with them. Esau, man, the beast, the dragon, and the whore, that's been running things for 500 some odd years since they came out of the pits and went into perdition for that little season. All right. Let's go back to the article real quick. It says 3 key developments underline the current growth of the groups. Heath. One is the anger that nations of the global South felt at the way Western nations monopolized access to medical supplies, key patients during the fight against COVID. Another is success in that November's Brazilian election of former President Lula da Silva, which ended the 5-year rule of right-winger Jair Bolsonaro. With Lula's victory, Brazil resumed its commitment to the development of focus and self-oriented policies that have always lain at the heart of the Brics venture. It says the third root of the group's current vitality is the strong global backlash to the economic sanctions that President Biden imposed on Russia last year. Right, because Russia's financial stability does not come from America anymore in the dollar. They can use their own currency. They've been doing bilateral deals instead of multilateral deals. It don't have to pass through from one hand to another. So two individuals are involved. All right. Hold on just a second. 2 individuals are involved. All right. So 2 countries are involved, right? And before you had America having their hands in everything. So 2 countries couldn't deal with each other in the past without having America involved. So it became a trilateral or a multilateral deal because it would have to pass through so many hands. But now these nations are doing bilateral deals from one hand to another, right? And that's it. They don't need America, all right, putting their hands on everything, tainting everything, So ultimately, that's going to be the destruction of America because through those multilateral deals, America was getting a piece of the pie like they do with everything when you go to the like these banks do when you go to the ATM, fractional reserve currency. Esau always tries to find a way to get his hands on other people's resources and other people's money, All right. It says over recent decades, economic sanctions have been one of the first tools U.S. leaders have used to respond to foreign policy changes. In that vast majority of these cases, from the sanctions put on Cuba in 1959 to those put on Iraq in the 1990s, or those kept on Iran, Venezuela, Syria, or Afghanistan until today. These sanctions have hurt ordinary citizens very bad while entrenching the whole world on power of the government that the U.S. leaders said they wanted to reform or overthrow. All right, so now, and it says, go figure in parentheses, that's funny. So now you've had America having their involvement on how the whole world operates from a global scale, like going in there, starting wars, changing the regimes, putting them puppet masters who they want to lead that's going to do things according to their agenda, which is the New World Order. It says, in the present century, the list of countries whose leaders and national institutions are on Washington's team sanction has grown even larger. In 2018, President Trump slapped trade tariffs on China, which thereby became the founding member of Team Tariff. President Biden has kept those anti-Chinese tariffs in place, while also adding sanctions on several Chinese state entities. Then in early 2022, Washington abruptly added Russia, which was a large and robust economic base, to Team Sanction. That step paradoxically boosted the efforts that the sanction and tariff nations had long been making to find alternatives to the tools that Washington has used to enforce its sanctions. The period since February 2022 has seen a rapid rise in the use by these countries' traders of currencies other than the dollar to dominate their sales of oil and other commodities. Right. So these are the getting rid of the middleman bilateral moves that these nations are making, moving America out of the picture. All right. It says, welcome to the rise of Petro Yuan. All right. And which is the Chinese version of like the petrodollar. All right. It says, we have also seen big steps by policymakers from Team Sanction and Team Tariff in developing payment systems other than the SWIFT mechanism that has long been one of the major tools Washington has used to implement sanctions. All right. I'm not sure what that SWIFT mechanism is, so I'm going to look it up. All right. SWIFT mechanism in foreign exchange. SWIFT is the largest and most streamlined method for international payments and settlements. SWIFT works by assigning each member institute a unique ID code or a BIC number that identifies the bank name and the country, city, and branch. SWIFT has been used to impose economic sanctions on Iran, Russia, and Belarus. So this is a system that they use to impose the sanctions, man, which has been crushing the economy of these other nations, forcing them to try to find some other solution. And it looks like through these Brics nations that they found it. All right. It says the founding impetus for the Brics grouping was always from 2009 on to build economic coordination among its members. The impetus came into full play after Washington's broad 2022 expansion of sanctions against Russia. But China has also been eager for some years to have its Brics partners back up the increasingly successful political diplomacy it has pursued in several parts of the world. Back in March, China achieved a huge diplomatic co-op when it unveiled a rapprochement between longtime U.S. ally Saudi Arabia and U.S. target Iran. It had been quietly working on for many months. That breakthrough has already resulted in some valuable steps towards de-escalation in the West Asia, aka Middle East. It also drew those countries and the United Arab Emirates, a key Saudi ally, more closely towards the non-U.S. trading system being established by Brics. All right, so now see, through these BRIC nations, they could use their own currency. They could use whatever, if I'm not mistaken, but they don't have to use the dollar, because what happens is, based on the value of the dollar, of the current currency of the nation that wants to do the trade, they have to go into, they have the the IMF, International Monetary Fund, right? So they have to have special drawing rights. In order to get a certain amount of drawing rights, you have to buy a certain amount of dollars to do trade. So they have to buy dollars to do trade, and a lot of times they have to and they're trading for commodities that America doesn't have, like oil. But I got to buy dollars in order to. Now, if I have sanctions imposed on me, I'm going to have taxes on those dollars, and I'm going to have other charges being implemented, which so these countries are not really making anything in trade. So it's just like you know, if they're trying to if let's just say it costs them $20 to cost on a barrel of oil, right? And they sell it now for like $100 and some odd dollars, all right, a barrel. So you would think, let's just say even 100, you would think they would have $80 profit. But with these sanctions that are applied, that profit that they have goes down, 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 down. And where does it go? To America. So if they want to capitalize and make as much money as they can make, they got to do whatever America says not to be placed on these sanctions. All right. But instead of falling to America, right, and settling, they are finding other ways through these BRICS nations, man. It says, hence the presence of these countries' foreign ministers at the BRICS meeting in Cape Town in early June, and hence the likelihood that these three countries will be among these admitted into full membership of BRICS this August. Officials in the existing BRICS countries have been generally tight-lipped about which countries will be joining the bloc as it expands. And when U.S. News and World Reports names 10 countries besides the 3 named above that were represented in person or virtually at Cape Town meeting, and that they may well be admitted to BRICS this August, the whole of the statement that the BRICS foreign ministers issued at the end of their Cape Town summit, all right, is worth reading. It provides a rich picture of the bloc's concerns and values, stressing that it works based on the 3 pillars of political, security, and economic, and financial, and cultural, and people-to-people cooperation. That just sounds like the spirits that leaked out of the false prop. Let me get that, because it's all. What do they want? It says the 3 pillar: political, security, all right. That's your military and your government. Economic, that's your money that you use. Economic and financial, that's the money that you're using. Cultural and people-to-people cooperation. You can line that up with spirituality, what you worship, you know? Because a lot of times how people worship is how they interact with each other, people to people. Revelation 16 and 13. All right, so you already have America doing this with let me get it. All right, it says, and I saw, Revelation 16 and 13, it says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, European Union. That's the economical financial part of it. All right, so that would be the economic and financial. And it says, out of the mouth of the beast, right, which is military force like NATO. All right, and that would be your security and part of your political also. All right, and it says, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, and that's your cultural and people-to-people cooperation, all right, fellowship. So they look to have control over all these things. So don't look like it's going to be a transition in righteousness because you have people taking down the hammer of the earth. No, they want to be the hammer. They want to be the one calling the shots, and it's still going to be oppression on all the people. Nothing's going to change, all right, until Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai comes down here and tears down this system, man. All right. This article is pretty long. I'm not going to read much more. I'm not going to read any more on it, but you know, you kind of get the point to where it's going to be a transition of power, but that's what they're working to gain, total control, but just don't want America to be the one being the front runner having that total control. All right. But total control is going to be taken by Yahweh, by Shem Yahweh Shai, man. All right, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to serve this purpose. With that, I like to say, Ka Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Harakak Wadash, my Amath. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the argument that are pushing this truth, the sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.